Hey guys, welcome to my Samoan language instruction on when. Before we get started, here's some vocabulary words. I want you to get these written down and worked on in a timely manner. Okay? So, let's get started. What I'm going to say before is the video that we're working on today is talking about the whens that we use in questions. So if I said something like, when are you going to the store? Or when did Michael get back? That's the kind of whens that we're using, is when we're asking questions. But in the next video, we're going to be talking about whens that are in statements. So if you said something like, when we bought the car, we were really happy, or when you go to the store, buy milk, you're making statements. So, like again, this when one, the when one is for question whens, and the when two is for statement whens. Okay? So the first when that we're going to learn about is afea, and afea is used in asking questions. We just talked about that. And with events that happen in the future. So when you remember afea, remember you use it when you're asking questions and when things are happening in the future. So when are you going to go, or when are you going to the store? This is the kind of when. The person that you're asking hasn't gone yet, but you're asking in the future, when are you going? Okay? So that's kind of that. And another thing about when is, in English you can use it at the beginning of the sentence or the end of the sentence. So notice these two examples. So when are you going, or you are going when. And when I talk in English, at the very end of a question I say, where are you going? I higher my tone, or my inflection, okay? I raise it. It's more high-pitched. But in Samoan, if I was going to say these same questions, you would say, you are going when? You lower that inflection or that intonation, okay? So just remember that when you use afea and the other form that we're going to be learning in a little bit, you always lower your intonation at the end of the question, okay? So the same can be done in Samoan, so we're just going to be talking about how you can put when at the beginning of the sentence or at the end. And you can also put it at the middle. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But when are you all going? And then the Samoan form of that is afea tote o atuai. Okay, and so this is the same equivalence right here, these two highlighted forms. And then if I wanted to put when at the end of the sentence, you would say it like, you are all going when, or tote o afea. And what I want to make, the last thing that I want to say about these two sentences is this atu. That atu is a directional adverb, and that just clarifies that the person's going. Okay, you don't have to say it in this case, but it just clarifies to the speaker that they're going away. And you could also use that atu in this second form. So if you wanted to put it right there, in between the o and the afea, you could do that as well. You're just clarifying to them again that they're going away from you. Okay, awesome. So here's a couple more things that I just want to bring up real quick. When afea is used, only tense markers olea and a and te can be used. Okay, so if you notice in these sentences, I use te in both cases. And the reason why that is it's because it's the future when. Okay, so afea is a future when, and in a question form. So you can only use the future tense marker. So I know I told you that this is the olea, this is the future one, but you can use a and te for future things as well. Okay, and the last thing that I want to tell you is that there are times that you'll see the particle o, you'll see this particle o that comes before afea, okay? And this does not change the meaning and is not mandatory. For our purposes, we will omit the particle o. So sometimes you'll see a particle o come before this afea. So if I was saying this statement, sometimes you'll see the particle o right here, and they would say, o afea tote o atuai. And I mean, you can say that or you don't have to, but for my purposes in this video, we're not going to be including the o, okay? So the next thing that we're going to be talking about is, in general, when afea starts a sentence, the word I, and I put it in green because I want you to notice the pattern, will follow the verb. So I want you to go back to this right here, and afea started off the sentence, and at the very end of this, I put I, okay? So I will come after the verb or the directional adverb. So this right here is the verb, okay? And then I also have a directional adverb attached to that verb. And so if a directional adverb is attached to that, then the I comes after the directional adverb. If there's no directional adverb, like let's say I don't have the atu, then the I will follow right after the verb. Okay? So just kind of showing that. And so let's kind of just see some examples, okay? So when will you bring a chair for me? And so again, when is at the beginning of the sentence, and so I'm going to say that first. And if I wanted to, I could put the particle o before that. But like I said, I'm going to omit that in this video. So afea, and then I have when will you bring a chair for me? So in the future, I need a future tense marker. And a ao mai is the you bring, okay? And then you'll know that I have an I right here that's right after the verb, and that's because I started off the sentence with afea. I started off with when, future and question form. Okay, and so whenever I do that, whenever I start off a sentence with when, then I need to have an I come right after the verb or the directional adverb that comes after that, if there is one. Okay, and then a chair for me is what comes next, so I'm going to highlight that. A chair for me is se no for mo ao. Okay, the next thing is, the next example that I'm giving, when are you going to the store? So again, this is a question and it's in the future. And you're asking when at the beginning of the sentence, so I have afea again, and then are you going, ete alu, and then in this case I do have a directional adverb. So I have alu as the verb and atu as the directional adverb, and my I will come right after that. In this last case, I didn't have a directional adverb, so the I followed the verb immediately. But in this case, I have an atu, that's a directional adverb, and that I will follow that. In most cases, this is in general rules. There's obviously going to be some exceptions, but in most cases when afea starts the sentence, I will come after the verb or the directional adverb that's attached to the verb. And then the last thing that I need to say is to the store, and that's ile fale oloa. Okay, so that's awesome. And then sometimes you'll see afea come in the middle of the sentence. So this is going to sound a little bit funny in English because we don't usually do this in English. But you'll see this in Samoan quite often, actually. So you are returning when to Canada. In English, we would usually say, when are you returning to Canada? Or you are returning to Canada when. But in this case, sometimes you'll see when in the middle of a sentence in Samoan. And so you are returning when to Canada. I mean, you could say that, but it would just sound probably a little funny. But in Samoan, I would say this first part is you are returning, and that's ete toi fo'i. Okay, so you are returning, and then when comes next, so that's afea, and then to Canada is I kanata. Okay, and then the last thing is you will pull the weeds in the back when. So this is how I would probably say it, or when will you pull the weeds in the back? And this is the literal translation. So you will pull when the weeds in the back. So that sounds pretty funny to us in English, but this is something that they would say in Samoan. So you will pull, let's do that. You will pull is what they first say, and that's olea e vele is you will pull, and then when is in the middle, so afea, and then the weeds in the back is levau I tua. Okay? So hopefully this is helping, and I kind of just want to take one sentence from each and kind of maybe go over it together. So let's translate this sentence together, and then we'll translate this one afterwards, okay? So we're going to translate the one that I highlighted. So let's just go, when are you going to the store? So let's say, when are you going? Let's just translate that first. So when are you going to the store? We're asking a question, so, and this is in the future, so I need my afea, okay? My afea comes first. And then, are you going? So I could say olea right here. Or I could just say, so I could say olea. Sorry. This would be olea a. Okay, sorry, that took me a little longer than it should have. So olea a, you could say that, but you'll probably see the ate a little bit more. So ate alu atu. Okay, alu atu is when are you going? And if I did it the other way, it would definitely be right as well. I would say o le a alu atu. And you could have done it either way. Okay, so again, here's my future when in the question form. Here's my future tense marker. Here's my subject you. This is my verb go, and this is my directional adverb that is attached to that. And so that is one way that you could do it, or you could do it the way that we just did it before, and that is right here. So afea olea, afea ete alu atu is one way that would probably occur a little bit more than the way that I wrote it out just now. And then I add that I because it needs to come right after the verb or the directional adverb when afea starts the sentence. And then the next thing I have is a prepositional phrase, and you should be familiar with that by now in our sentence structures. And so to the store is ile, okay, ile, and then fale oloa, okay, the house of goods. And then I make a question. So afea ete aluatu ai ile fale oloa. Okay, and so that is how I would translate and say that sentence. Okay, let's do one more, and let's do it on the bottom when it's in the middle. So let's do this one that's a little bit more confusing together. You will pull when, the weeds in the back. So I'm going to do it, you will pull. So in the future, I have, I would say olea, okay? And a vele is how I would translate you will pull. And if I wanted to, you would see this. You could see a te vele. You could, that's just like you pull. And then, I mean, so what I want to just make clear is this a right here, the tense marker te or a, you'll see it a lot in future tenses as well as just present. And so that's probably something that's a little new to you. But the a and te tense markers that I'm talking about here, and olea, these are the tense markers that you'll see in the future. And so we're used to the olea being the future one, but you'll see a and te used in future settings as well. And so that's something that you need to start getting used to as well. So I did it the way that we're used to for the first part, and then we have when in the middle of the sentence, and so that's afea. And then the weeds in the back, this is kind of just a statement about, it doesn't have a verb in it, the weeds in the back. So I just need to put the noun, which is the weeds. So the weeds is the noun, so that's levau, and then in the back is a prepositional phrase, and that usually comes at the end, and that's e tua. Okay? So hopefully that's making sense. And if not, then I encourage you to rewatch whatever is not making sense. Okay? So moving on, we're going to be talking about anafea, and anafea is virtually the exact same as afea, except it is used for questions that take place in the past. So when you think of anafea, I want you to think it's used for questions and that it's for things that happen in the past. Okay? And so most rules that apply for afea are also applicable for anafea. So whenever I start off anafea, whenever I say when in the past, in a question format, I will come after, you'll see right here, I will come right after the verb. And so let's kind of just go over this. So when were you sick? This is a question, and this is something that happened in the past. So when were you sick? Were kind of implies past tense. And so I need a when that's past, and then I need a past tense marker, sa, is when were, and then you sick is a ma'i, and then I need an I at the end of that verb because my when again started off the sentence. Okay? So then when did those two arrive? So my when did, this is I need a past tense when in the question format, and then I need a past tense marker. So anafea na, okay, and then those two arrive is the rest of that sentence. But where is my subject? Those two is la, okay. So la is those two, and then arrive is my predicate phrase or my verb, and so tau nu'u. And then in Samoan, you'll always have an I that follows that verb when a when question form word starts off the sentence. So whenever afea or anafea start the sentence, I usually follows the verb or the directional adverb attached to that. Okay, awesome. So let's move on. Anafea can also occur in the middle of the sentence or at the end of the sentence. So here's some examples of that. Your father worked when at the bank. So that sounds a little bit funny to us. We probably wouldn't normally say that, but they'll say that in Samoan. So sa ngā lue lau te mā, anafea e le whale tupe. Okay? Or I could say your friend wrecked the car when, and that would be na lavea le ta'avali la wo anafea. Okay? So, and the last thing that I want to say is anafea, unlike afea, anafea, so let's highlight anafea, can only be paired with the tense markers sa and na. And that's because I'm using a past tense when it can't fit with a future tense or any other tense. It needs a past tense marker. So anafea, a past when, needs to use the past tense markers as well. Okay? So hopefully this is helping. Let's kind of just translate some of these sentences again together. So I'm going to do this one, and let's do the bottom one again. So when did those two arrive? So when did those two arrive? So when did is I have a past tense marker. Actually, we already did that. So let's just do one of these ones. So your friend wrecked the car when. So your friend wrecked it. Let's just go to that point. Let's do your friend wrecked. Okay? So in the past tense, I have an ed, so it's past tense. So na, and then my verb here is lavea. I need a lavea. I need a verb that comes next because I'm using the emphatic form here because I don't have a pronoun as the subject because I don't have an I, she, he, it, you, all, or we, or us, or any of those in this. I have your friend, and when your friend is not it's not a descriptive pronoun, it's an emphatic pronoun. Your friend is a possessive pronoun, and so I need to use the emphatic format. So na lavea, your friend, so I could put lao wo here. I could put lao wo, or I could say le ta'avale, right here. Okay, so na lavea le ta'avale is this right here is my tense marker, and then I have a predicate phrase, which is my verb in this case, and then I have the subject. The thing that's getting her is the ta'avale. And I apologize, guys, I should have an E that follows this right here. So right here, I should have E, because my E is marking the doer, the person that's doing the action. So I could have le ta'avale e la wo anafea, or I could say na lavea e la wo, one of the two ways. Na lavea e la wo, and then I would say le ta'avale anafea. So le ta'avale anafea. Okay? So hopefully that made sense. I'm sorry I didn't have the E before. So basically what I'm saying is you could have na lavea le ta'avale, and then right here needs an E. Or I can take all of that and move it before ta'avale. So le ta'avale. So I could have na lavea e la wo le ta'avale anafea, or I could have na lavea le ta'avale e la wo anafea, and that E just marks the person that's doing the action. And I know that we said we need to do tense markers, verb, and then the doer. But you'll see it where they'll switch it around sometimes, where they'll have the subject that comes, the object that comes right after, and they'll mark the E over here. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. I'm sorry that I didn't get that E in there, but I think I explained it thoroughly to make sense. Okay? So here's some sentences. I encourage you to work on these and to translate these and pause the video. Okay, so hopefully you got something close to what I got, and okay, so moving on, you could have put this malanga right here, you could have put the plural form of that, but we haven't really talked about that, so I'm just going to leave it in the malanga part, and hopefully you got everything else that's the same, okay? And then here's some other sentences to work on, so pause the video and try to get these down. Okay, so here's the answers. Hopefully you got something that's close to that. And thank you for watching this video, guys, and tofa soifua.